I'm joined now by economist and author Dambisa Moyo. Last year she published her first book, Dead Aid. The book is about how Africa can escape the cycle of extreme poverty, disease and corruption. The solution is, according to Dambisa, to stop giving aid to Africa. That's right, the only way that the rest of the world can help Africa is to give it less money, or to give it less money. We'll find out which is the correct pronunciation there. But Dambisa's here right now. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
The front of your book says why aid is not working and how there is another way for Africa. And on the back here it says, the last sentence here, first we must destroy the myth that aid works and make charity history. Explain.
Well, the main thesis of the book is really about Africa becoming an equal partner in the global world. There are no countries on earth, there's not a single country on earth that has achieved long-term growth and meaningfully put a dent in poverty by relying on aid to the extent that African countries do today. And we know this as policymakers and as economists, as development people. We know that aid cannot deliver economic growth and reduce poverty. And yet, we continue to push that strategy on the African continent.
But I mean, you say, yes, to make charity history. But I mean, if someone's watching this now and was thinking of making a donation to some food charity or whatever in Africa, should they say, right, we won't send that £1,000 because it'll spoil the Africans and I should just spend it here?
Well, I think we as a global society need to be much more humble and less arrogant about what exactly charity can do. I myself am involved with a number of charities. I understand that it might act as a band-aid solution, but it's not going to make Africa grow at 10% a year, create jobs and reduce poverty. And I think that's the message of the core message of the book, that we need to start doing things that actually can meaningfully transform the African economies.
But if people are going to die of hunger and starvation and things like that if they take your advice here and make charity history. Well, you're going to need charity until your plans work, and that could take a lot longer than 5 years or 10 years.
Well, let's just take a step back. In 1970, for example, about 10% of the African population was living on less than $1 a day. Between 1970 and now, we've spent a lot of money, billions, close to $1 trillion of aid has gone to Africa in one form or another, either in the form of charity or in the form of governments giving out charitable donations to African countries. However, today, over 70% of Africans live on less than $1 a day. So by your metric and what you're suggesting, if we continue to push a strategy of charity to Africa, I'm arguing that in 10, 15, 20 years from now, we won't have 70% of Africans living on $1 a day. We'll have 90%, maybe the whole continent living on less than $1 a day. We know what works to create jobs, which is what Africa needs. And we know what it is that actually can create growth in these economies, but we're not doing that. We're pushing a strategy that has no evidence anywhere of actually creating.
But who's pushing the strategy? Because people who receive money, come back to charity in a minute, but I mean, people who receive, countries who receive large grants in overseas aid or whatever, I mean, it's their decision what to spend it on. Why don't they want to spend it on what you're recommending? Of course, in the long run, it would be perfect if all the countries of Africa were economically sound, growth figures rocketing and all of that. But that takes a long time in the rest of the world, and it's going to take a long time there.
Well, first of all, I don't think it necessarily takes a long time. I mean, in our lifetime, China has moved over 300 million people out of poverty. And India has done a similar feat. And we have, even in Africa, countries like South Africa and Botswana that have actually meaningfully put a dent in poverty. It's no surprise that these countries have not relied on aid. They have actually created jobs because they know that that is what the key to success is. So I actually don't think it takes a long time. I think it takes political will. I also believe that we have enough evidence, as I've said already, to show that aid doesn't work. It creates corruption, it creates dependency, it does not create jobs, and it creates a system that actually encourages African leaders to focus on courting and catering to the donors and not listening to what African citizens have to say. And that is a fundamental problem. We're so obsessed with Africa being a charitable case that we're not having the right discussion about
So
alternatives.
you don't think that what Bob Geldof has done for Africa is good? You think it's bad? You think it's not the solution, it's the problem?
I think that Africa, we know it has fewer, on an absolute number basis, it has fewer poor people than China or India. And yet we don't feel sorry for China, we don't feel sorry for India, we feel sorry for Africa. And I think what we've got, the problem has been that the PR around Africa. It's incredibly negative. I do fear that the celebrities have basically pushed a negative picture of Africa. They tend to focus on war, disease, or corruption and poverty, when there are a lot of positive things that are happening in Africa that would allow Africa to attract investment and transform the continent. And that's where I do quibble with the celebrities. And besides that, I think that we need to hear more from African leaders. It is them who are charged with the responsibility of increasing growth in Africa. We rarely hear from them on what the strategy is. I, as a voting person in Africa, I want to know what African governments are thinking. I'm not interested in hearing about what the celebrities or the charities feel needs to be done in Africa, because otherwise it really erodes the core relationship between me and my government.
Well, the other thing, of course, about it is that there are all these... I don't see why Bob Geldof should be rejected for that, because the reason he talks about hunger is that there is hunger, and the reason that there is death in various forms, including internecine warfare within countries, the reason they mention that is because it is there.
Absolutely, but you know what? There is
solve it without admitting it.
There's more poverty in China than there is in Africa. You know, we rarely see a Chinese advertisement asking for handouts from the British population on television, because the Chinese government has very astutely figured out that a negative messaging around China is not going to attract the investment that these countries need. So if the celebrities use their platform in a positive way to show that Africa's got a vibrant young population, I'd be more sympathetic. But really portraying African children as impoverished, as we often see, is not helpful, I don't see.
But it's true.
It's true, but it's only partially true. That's part of the story, and it's the story that is not helping. If I went and took pictures of inner city of America, that is not the whole picture. And it's very, very detrimental to the long-term economics of the countries.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
As you can see, there's plenty to read and bite on in this book. It's called Dead Aid by Dambisa Moyo. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A remarkable film showing a very different side of Pakistan is being released in film festivals around the world. It's called Made in Pakistan, and it was inspired by a Newsweek magazine article claiming that Pakistan was the most dangerous place in the world. The film sets out to show that what the world sees of Pakistan is not everything that is in fact going on in the country itself. Not everything. Here's a clip.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling round the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck at Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. The train keeps rolling on down to San Antone.
This is Jimmy, and he's an upcoming singer, and he's really good.
I never did Johnny Cash before till I saw the movie. Okay, Walk the Line. My first year of A-levels, I made my first song, which is, to this day, the most popular one.
The light has gone. We're having load shedding for 4 hours every day, by the way.
Yes, we're here. That gap, that blank screen came from the movie itself. And the film's producers, Hiba and Adil Sher, are with me right now. Now, what was the basic thing? That you had this quote about it being the most dangerous place, which in certain places it is, depending where explosions are taking place and so on. So what was it you wanted to get across, both of you?
Yeah, because post 9/11, I mean, Taliban and the extremist groups, you know, have become the face of Pakistan, and whereas in reality, they are a small minority. So we just wanted to get that message across that, you know, I mean, the majority of the population in Pakistan is as normal as anyone living in the West, and we want to live a very normal life. We want to be happy, we want to be prosperous, and we're very progressive as a nation. So just don't write us off, just like that. You know, just, I mean, calling us, you know, terrorists is just it's a very limited, perspective. I mean, you need to dig further, and
we just created that. We gave you that option. So we just showed you another side of Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah. And why do you think Pakistan is portrayed in the way it is portrayed, the most dangerous place? And it is pretty dangerous if you're where the bombs are, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the suicide bombers and all those things. But I take absolutely the point that it's not all over that. But then that's always the case. People used to, Northern Ireland, they used to say, well, it's not dangerous here, you know, but it was dangerous if you were where the danger was.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not a political documentary, but our environment is very political. You know, I mean, we are normal people. We continue with our everyday lives. You know, when London was affected, you know, every work didn't stop. You know, then shut your offices down. Still had to eat, still have to earn a living, still have to continue, have fun, you know, spend time with your families. And we're normal people living normal lives. And we gave ourselves a voice, really. That's what we did.
The message you're saying is Pakistan is just like anywhere else in the world. The things you just said, we want to do these things and so on and so forth. I mean, the headlines about things where there's violence in Pakistan are not wrong because they are events. But what you're saying is you wished there were some other stories as well. But then, as we know, all over the world, good news is no news.
Yeah,
apart
absolutely.
from here today.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever since, you know, the war on terror started, I mean, we Pakistanis have become the victims because we are actually on the receiving end. It's a backlash, you know, all these bombs going off in Pakistan. It's a backlash.
It makes our businesses suffer. It makes our lives difficult, and we've got nothing to do with this war, really. I mean, but we live there, we pay taxes there, we make a difference to the economy there, but we don't exist there according to the rest of the world because all you see on TV is a beard. And we just wanted to break. We wanted to contradict the basic stereotypes, and I think we put that across in a very simple way.
Well, people will see the film and make up their own minds. That's absolutely right. But the thing is, with the news, you know, you're not going to see many news bulletins that say, first of all, in Pakistan today, nothing happened. You know what I mean?
That would be news, actually.
That would be news.
Well, good luck with the film, anyway. Thanks for being with us. Thank you for being with us too, ladies and gentlemen of the world. Join me again in 7 days' time for another Frost Over the World.